Hello and welcome to Shakespeare Wars. This is Geoff Tilley here, and this is my second major fan film production, the long-lost play Honest. Now, of course, this was inspired by Romeo and Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann film. So when you throw that and Star Wars together, this is what you get in theory.
That's an excellent piece of work too, by the way. So for those who haven't picked up on the fact, this is like 6 years after Ghostbusters. So and you travelled to Western Australia and come back in that time?
Of course, filming it all sort of in reality, here we have cars. There's my wife Lavina's old car, and I can't even remember whose car that was.
Now, do you remember who's wearing half these hoods? Because like later on, there are people popping up on these hoods, and it's like they could be like these guys. Like, who are those guys?
Basically, people we recruited from Star Wars meetings, so we weren't picky in our casting. No casting couch sessions for us. Unfortunately, because they've got the hoods on, you can't tell, so they shall forever be nameless.
So
that's it, yes.
I say,
not unless,
and uncredited too.
Not unless they watch this years later and go, oh yeah, I remember wearing those pants, or Shakespeare Wars was a significant part of my life. I'll never forget that.
Actually, what I found funny watching this back is that a lot of the people in the show have aged a fair bit since then. And in the Rebel briefing room in particular, there's a couple of people who I think, my God, they're children at that point, and of course now they're adults and getting married and whatever else.
Oh yes, we've captured a bit of history.
Yeah, we have indeed. So whose car was this, mate?
That's probably someone's who's was very generous in giving over their car.
Now, what's interesting is a whole lot of scene stealing going on here, and obviously between George and Kerry, there's a lot of that going on. They just had a knack for it. But what I found interesting is because there was a 6-year gap between the films, people who weren't involved in the first one became quite involved in the second one. Like Catherine here, in Ghostbusters, all she did was just sound effects for Godzilla, and now in this film, she's actually quite prominent. Whereas other people who were like barely noticeable at all in Shakespeare Wars were like really prominent in Ghostbusters. So
yeah, I think that just reflects the time period from when I did the first film and then the second film, and of course. George and Kerry were real stars in the first one, so I had to elevate their status a bit.
Actually, Kerry wasn't so much, because she was only in one scene when she just did the Ripley thing.
She did it so well, I thought, well, she needs a major role.
I don't know if you remember this, we actually filmed this in Northcote. The camera's actually sitting on top of a pole outside of a shopping centre, because there was only the three of us there that day. And there's plenty of occasions where the lead cast, the heroes, are actually all playing the villains at the same time, so... yeah, rather funny. He spelled Tatooine spelt wrong, by the way. It's 1 T and 2 O's.
Oopsies. Well, this was done down, I think, Mentone Beachway, which was just up the road from George and Kerry's. So I think it was a very cold day that day, sort of not good for filming. But, of course, you know, you film whenever you can.
Actually, do you remember that because this production was so long, when we started, it was in the guts of summer, and so we were all hot and sweaty, and then later on it went into winter. And then all of a sudden the outfits that were too warm in the early days were suddenly not warm enough in the later days. So that was a bit of a problem.
The time factor definitely played an interesting aspect in terms of, you've mentioned to me earlier about beards that come and go and hairstyles getting longer and shorter.
Yeah. Actually, speaking with people growing up, these two kids are now adults, aren't they?
Yes, they are. So
I've got their names. Jimmy,
Pete and Jimmy.
Pete and Jimmy, that's right. So there you go. Now, Derek Screen had a number of vans in his time, and this was his very first one. Now, Derek's an example of someone in Ghostbusters when he was in there for one shot, when he was walking down the street with his cat, and now he's got a prominent role in this as Uncle Owen. So yeah.
I think sort of one of the other reasons for casting is that, Derek and Sharon live just up the road from George and Kerry. It's like, oh, brilliant, you know, sort of won't take very long to get there. So, here they are.
Actually, Sharon, she was a ghost in the first film, and now she ends up wearing a hood in the second one. Jeepers creepers.
Actually, because we had so many little tiny roles and all that kind of stuff, they were able to sort of double up on sort of various different ways. So you get to see... Derek sort of in about 3 or 4 different roles. There he's there.
Now, it's funny, like he does not have a beard here, but a moment ago he did, and when we come back to him, he'll have it back again. So, and this is an example where it was a hot day, so we're all wearing shorts, and this is actually filmed in the milk bar just up the road from George and Kerry's place.
We actually did a lot of filming in and around their place, sort of not only inside their place, but their garage just up the road. The street that's just off the side is where the van was before.
So it became quite a popular little neighbourhood. But I think this might actually be one of the first days of filming, if my memory serves, because I remember it being very, very warm, and we sort of put it all together and had a bit of fun with it. And so we got Derek here, right? He does not have a beard, and now he suddenly does. And there's a few instances like that crop up. So this must have been filmed months and months and months apart.
And there's your Enterprise membership card. So back in the day when that was the club to be in.
Yes, exactly right.
How she can do that hopping, I don't know.
Yeah, but if you asked her today if she could do it, I'm wondering what the answer would be. So and this is in their garage, actually, which doesn't exist anymore. They tore it down and landscaped it all.
Now, this scene coming up is where you definitely get to give it to George, don't you? Sort of a bit violent.
Oh, jeez. It's very funny because, like in the first film, in Ghostbusters, there wasn't a lot of scenes of just long dialogue, whereas this had a fair bit. And this is an example of that, where everything's sort of, the craziness has stopped and we're just doing a lot of talking. But I got to say, all these thous and thys and all this stuff, I mean, half that, it made it sound like you had a lisp half the time.
Yeah, well, so you had to try and include some of those in just to sort of keep it, sort of in the Shakespearean theme. So, but often you would say your lines and you just forget to actually include them in.
Now, here's a question: do you still have the Star Tours jacket?
Yes, it's one of my prized collectibles. I don't think I even got it laundered after Kerry was wearing it. So it's still got the original Kerry sweat in it.
And that little doll that was playing Princess Leia. What was the deal with that? Where'd that
well,
come from?
A lot of my props and stuff like that sort of basically were raided from op shops. So the guns and the doll and everything like that sort of no expense spared.
There we go. Some aggressive tendencies on C-3PO.
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't see that in the real movies. So, you could almost make a film just with George and Kerry playing these characters. Seriously. They're just, too good.
Later that morning.
I think she's actually walking in this sequence. Actually, I think the angle is because she couldn't walk very far on her knees. No. So I think she's actually walking properly.
I think you're probably right there.
So,
again, those binoculars from the op shop.
And we got the yellow Volvo again. I don't know where that's come from. So, that's going to remain a mystery.
I think that might have been Martin Riley's car, possibly, because Pete and Jimmy were there with Martin sense. Down at their place.
Now, is this the cheapest the sand person you've ever seen? He's just got the hood, wearing the cape over. Like, seriously, dude. Even for a Chucky production, that's pretty daggy.
Go away, sand people, boo! That line's haunted Darren Reed for a long time. As you notice, we use a lot of title cards because we're doing a very truncated version of the show. Is like we need those to sort of come through. Anyway, there's Darren showing his prowess.
My father's pole. So there you go. There's a bit of
that sounds a bit rude. My father's pole.
It does. And you notice that was a moment ago. I think you see it again. The Ghostbusters logo was put in the background as a bit of a homage to that. So I remember doing this sequence because I'm swinging the saber, thinking, Jesus, Dags, can you speak a little quicker? It's taking too long.
Well, he is actually, if you looking down on his script and actually reading the lines. So, yes, you can't sort of knock it off too quick.
Oh, jeez.
As the scrolls down there, he's reading from Battlefield Earth. Just a little gag there.
Yes. Classic stuff.
Now, that doll, that steals the show, I tell you.
Some pretty good acting from the doll. Geez. So you got the Ghostbusters logo in the background, yes.
And the Star Wars trilogy popcorn bucket.
Yes. Jeez. Looky.
Oh, look at that face.
Jeez. That later dude pops up everywhere, I tell you what.
Yeah, I tended to recycle a lot of the slides there.
You'll notice this film has a distinct absence of special effects.
Oh, there's the William Shatner, James T. Kirk acting,
Oh, dear. Yeah, but what's not made, it's not clear as to who I'm looking at.
Well, the object of this is actually to realise that you know what the Star Wars storyline is.
Yeah. Ah, jeez. Classic.
Later that evening.
Yes. This is actually a serious bit of the movie. Look, he's saying, he doesn't want to stay here anymore. He wants to go to Alderaan and a lot of thous and these and thys and there's an outtake where I couldn't say any words at all.
If I could have thrown a cheap gag in there somewhere, I would have.
Now, here's another classic example of shots between time frames. So, I've got my hair is quite short and Reedy's not wearing a hat. So we walk into the bar, which is actually down the road from where I lived at the time in Fairfield. And then we cut to the interior where I've still got my short hair and Reedy's not wearing a hat. And then suddenly I've got long hair and he's wearing a hat.
and we're now at Melbourne University.
It's like it's not half obvious, is it? So that there's been a time jump. Oh, it's there.
Oh, that's a prop hand from a movie that I got. So Yeah, now we're actually at was it Melbourne
I
University?
don't know. But that bit crack, we could not get that part right. The old spitting and the bing. H with long hair. Of course, he hasn't had long hair now for a very long time. So, yeah. Baseway. What the hell's that?
Bay Safeway, actually, because we filmed this in the basement of a Safeway car park. So
okay, gotcha. I never got that, the Baseway thing. Yeah.
yeah, well, I was trying to make it sort of alien sounding.
Oh, yeah, right. Because you got to remember, no one ever read Geoff scripts. That just didn't happen. You just went there on the day and you just say these lines and you just said them.
This was one of those situations where we thought, well, we need something underground, and we just drove around until we finally found an underground car park somewhere. So that was the extent of location finding.
You'll notice that you got Geoff's famous red Chimera, and even in this film, it changes number plates, because when you came back from WA, you had the WA plates on it, which I think you see a glimpse of later on, and then towards the end of the film, it actually changes to Victorian plates. So,
yes.
Dear.
And of course, we couldn't do anything space battle-y too much because couldn't use props or anything like that. So we used the cars and kept it down to an absolute minimum.
Now, in terms of perfect casting, Russell as a Tarkin is a definite a winner on that one. Don't you agree?
I think so. There's Cavell when
now look at this. He's holding two toy lightsabers and just sticks them into the door of all things.
Well, it did say electricals.
Oh, there's the WA number plate, so the GT 101. So
and there's our space debris of the asteroid field. The remnants.
Tragic. Oh dear. Now this is not made clear at all. A car is meant to go past us, but nothing ever did, and then it's in front of us. So, and of course, there's no space station. We don't get to see that. So,
I mean, in terms of real life, what would you use as a space station? It's like I'm using the imagination, the people's imaginations to sort of picture it.
Oh dear. Classic. God, I love it.
Back when they used to have telephone
booths.
Yes,
this is the old telecom telephones too. So, yes. So we just jumped from what was probably university into George and Kerry's study, and we go back to the telephone box. Oh, dear. This bit here where he does the money bit from ABBA, I must admit I actually did steal that idea from Russell, so I don't know if you did that or not.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, who had $100 note at that time?
I was thinking the same thing. That's a lot of money. That was a real one too.
Must have been H's own, I think.
I'll tell you what. Oh dear, Becky's Chewbacca. Oh, it's classic.
The leopard skin coat, actually, again from the op shop. I was very lucky to sort of score that.
Yeah, so of course you put a leopard skin coat on something, and then suddenly a Wookiee. I love it.
And the guns, of course, what we did was we had those party poppers underneath. So at strategic times, you just pull one of those and then pop, off it goes. And here we are in the toilets.
This is your best acting role vocally, is the beep, 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 beep. I remember it because H had to get to the thing before you ran out of breath. That's why towards the end you go beep, 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 beep. And of course, when H was doing this Baz Luhrmann thing, I hadn't seen Romeo and Juliet, so I had no idea what he was talking about. I said, "Who the hell's Baz Luhrmann?" So I got the gag later on though. So
and of course, here we are back at Melbourne Uni, where the Skyforce meetings were.
Yeah. Classic. I love that bucket.
Oh, look, there's me.
You got that bucket?
Actually,
you still got that bucket still?
I had that for an awful long time, and I don't know why I kept it. But eventually, I said, "Well, time for it to go."
Oh, jeez.
Put it on eBay and got $4 for it. No.
An official Shakespeare Wars prop.
That's it.
Or actually, not just Shakespeare Wars, but Shakespeare Wars.
That's right.
Depending on which video cover you got. It had an extra P in there. It wasn't meant to be.
I tell you what, we blew our budget there on the poppers.
Yeah,
so it's like they popped a few and it's like, just pretend to shoot.
Now, take note of the fact there's 4 of us there, right? And later on when you see H versus the 3 stormtroopers, the stormtroopers are actually Catherine, Becky and myself just wearing their hoods.
That was a good thing about using the balaclavas is that you could put anything under those. Oh, here we are at our simulated situation here.
Yeah, the trash compactor.
Trash compactor, yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
In the kitchen sink. Dear. Actually, I admit it was a bit of fun doing this. So yes, absolutely. What a way to.
It's a crack up, and it's like sort of we did this years and years before Robot Chicken ever thought of it.
Exactly right. So yes, absolutely brilliant. Actually, you notice later on when the walls start closing, we lost some of our bubbles.
And if you notice,
there we go.
actually,
so we've lost some of our bubbles, so we're bubbleless.
If you actually look carefully, these are the bootleg Chinese Star Wars figures, as opposed to the real Kenner ones.
Oh, jeez. I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, jeez. Had some fun with that. Classic. Look at the old telephone. It was I think it was my first mobile phone that I owned.
Wow, I thought it was a walkie-talkie.
No, it was actual phone. One of those ones where you pull the aerial up and everything. So now, okay, this is Becky, myself, and Catherine dressed as stormtroopers. Just put the hood on.
Because you can see Catherine.
Yeah, she's still wearing the dress and all that. There we go, and then suddenly we're back as ourselves. So we've just run away from ourselves. Oh dear, classic. Love it. But I got to admit, the old party popper thing I actually thought was a good idea. So I think it actually worked out quite well. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you've only got a $100 budget or whatever it is...
Jeez, you spent that much.
Oh,
I'm impressed, man. I'm very
I think
impressed.
half of it was in petrol getting to different locations.
Yeah, it could be too. Yeah. Funny stuff. There was an alternative version of this edit where there was actually sequences filmed at my Catherine and my house when they're running around these corridors and things, but it looked totally... You could actually tell we're running down our own corridors.
This is funny.
Yeah, this worked well. Yeah, this is a bit of a gag.
I think at the time when we filmed this, we just cracked up a lot of times.
You got to love it.
But at the university, they had lots of these corridors and things like that, which made it really sort of good. And because we did it on the weekend, we had relative privacy.
Now, here's something for you. You're on the right and Reddy's on the left, but later on we see him moved around when you see the group shot. I was actually going to flip this around to get the orientation correct, and then I thought I couldn't be bothered, so I just left it. So like, now all of a sudden, you're on the left and he's on the right, and we go back again. So, yes.
Well, can I blame the fact that because I'm actually on camera... I'm not actually filming it, so if I'd been filming it, I would have maybe noticed.
Oh, fair enough.
That's my excuse, so I'm sticking to it.
No eth. Yeah, that is like become a famous line of all lines, is it? No eth. I love it.
Look at that walk by H.
I know, it was great. It's just the way to go about it. It was awesome. Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, we're your driveway in Ballarat. I think we were editing at this point, and we realised we're missing a couple of bits, so we just ran out with the camera and filmed them.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different when we're doing Ghostbusters.
True.
And we're over at your place and we realised...
Victorian number plates all of a sudden. But yeah, you're right. When you're editing, sometimes you need a bit and you just do it.
And of course, we did all the car stuff up in the industrial estates up in Ballarat.
Yeah, and of course, that's myself shooting at myself. So the guy in the hood is me, once again in the driveway of the house. So that's your car. So I'm shooting at myself, and that's me in my car. Dying. Yahooeth.
The battle scenes and all that were one of those things that I really didn't want to do. I didn't know how to do it properly. So, that's...
wasn't
the best moments in the thing.
Dear. Yeah. But there's sometimes when you listen to the dialogue here where he says they're tracking us, not the ship sister. I always thought it would have been a nicer, not the ship sistereth or something, just to add those F's and I's.
Well, I could say that they were in the script, but the actors just sort of missed them.
Wasn't to be.
And this is at one of the Skyforce meetings?
Yes. Now, look, that girl right there, I went to her 21st a couple of years ago, and she's now engaged, that little girl in the front. So, how's that? So, all these little kids have now all grown up and moving on. So,
and we had the Boba Fett sort of saying, don't film me sort of thing, which was a tribute to Ghostbusters, where we did a thing with Elvis that did the same.
Now, who owned all these cars? Was it actually owned by the people in these sequences? Because this is obviously
We did not get permission for anyone to actually do that, so we have no idea whose cars they are.
Now, you notice that Becky's missing, and we've got a stand-in for Chewbacca, and it's actually Catherine's sister. So, and it was very funny, because when she growled, she always growled with a really high-pitched voice. It was like... It was very funny. But I actually think she really got into the role, even though she's like, you barely see her. But she's there.
It's a bit like when Bela Lugosi died in Plan 9. It's like you got the dentist to do it. So
Classic.
Meanwhile,
there's always a meanwhile. So these are all ex-Star Walking committee members.
Oh yes.
So we needed a helmet, and the only helmet we had was that one. So classic. So Tracy, you haven't seen Tracy since this film was made. She's like just been gone for like over 10 years now.
There's Lavina's car again. That was yours, I think.
Wasn't it Carol's? Maybe Carol's?
Maybe Carol, Carol Tilley's.
Carol Tilley's, yeah. So yeah. The exciting battle sequence. Oh, there we go.
Zoom.
Not
much. Yeah, insert exciting space battle here, because we're not going to put it in there, so use your imagination.
Exactly right. The car came from Adelaide. There's special Adelaide number plates on it. So... Yes. Oh, look at that. I'm shooting myself again.
It's all very tragic, isn't it?
It is. It was good fun to do, though, I've got to admit. Now, this is, believe it or not, this is a laneway in Carlton, I think North Carlton, in fact, because we needed something that was really, really long.
And something that would simulate the trenches.
Yes, and I actually remembered it, and because those lanes go for miles and miles and miles, and it worked out really well. So I just drove all the way up there, and
oh, look, there's
Cavallo
again.
He's back again, yeah. Oh dear, he's enjoying it a bit too much. And in fact, Russell was really keen to put in there's a touch of evil in all of us, but unfortunately he never made the edit. So there you go. There you go.
Oh, there's my wife Lavina sort of
Playing a bad guy.
Playing a bad guy.
Playing a bad guy.
I forgive her.
Now, what's funny in this is the guy says, Luke, you've turned off your targeting computer, what's wrong? But I never respond as to what the problem is. I just don't say anything.
You just feigned indifference.
So he called it Luketh. I always like Luketh rather than Luke. I think you've got to play with the characters' names like Laereth. And
He must have read the script and actually read it.
now, how's that for the cheapest special effect of all time? Was it talcum powder or whatever on a
big
poster?
flower bomb, yeah.
Flower bomb on a poster. Oh, golly. No expense spared, guys. No
Actually, he has to
expense
worry about driving that way because he might decapitate himself on the weather shield there.
spared. Yes, very good. All these guys cheering at absolutely nothing.
Yeah, the underground car park at the Skyforce meeting.
Now, of course, we get to this bit, and H is not here for this. So, for whatever reason, I think we've got Daniel Palmer dressed as Indiana Jones, and I could not work out what the link was. I think you just said, "Look, he'll do."
Well,
and,
Harrison Ford played both characters. So
there you go. There's
yes.
the tenuous link. So it's
Look,
clearly not even H, not by a long shot.
We even managed to get a gag out of it with the hat, you know. So
yeah, exactly right. And yes, the audience, yay, very good. We're not even in that venue anymore. Skyforce has long since moved on. So
see, that's why it's an archival piece of history.
now, for those who don't realise, the original version of this film ran for 32 minutes, and now this version runs for 21 minutes. So we've actually cut 11 minutes out of it, and I'm sure some people would argue that you could probably cut a lot more out of it, but either way, this is what we've got. So
it's interesting too that unlike the Ghostbusters credit, this one's actually sort of semi-professional.
Yes,
actually scans properly.
I picked up on that because in Ghostbusters we just filmed off a computer screen, which didn't work very well at all. But look at
Chunky
this.
production, 1999.
99, there we go. Anyway, it's time for us to sign off. So this is Dags and Geoff saying ta-ta.
Chowsy wowsies.
Okay, and I don't think the club's any round anymore, is it?
No, don't try sending off to that PO box, otherwise you get return mail.
Okay, ta-ta.
Bye.